Now, I realize when you see me come on stage, you're not expecting me when you think of a dancer, but here I am, folks. As a student, I was one of those kids that couldn't hold still ever, and I had to talk a million miles an hour, and I always had to make friends with everyone, and I always wanted to keep talking and keep talking. And I always appreciated those teachers that would give me a creative project, or that would work together with me, or give us clay, or let us work in groups. In fact, my 9th grade English teacher kicked me out of honors English because I was speaking so passionately about To Kill a Mockingbird. But nevertheless, I was still kicked out. In fact, my parents used to call me St. Vitus Dance. It was my nickname. So, of course, what did I do? I grew up and I became a drama teacher. I've been teaching drama for years and years. And in fact, I was teaching at a private school that was pre-K through 12. And most of our enrollment in the upper school were international students. Now, these students weren't especially excited about being in a drama class, but they got to, whether they liked it or not. In fact, here is a production that I did of Beauty and the Beast, and of course my Lumiere and Cogsworth were both from Korea, and were both spectacular. They would compete at Shakespeare competitions and do really well, even though English wasn't their first language. And I realized, hey, wait, there's something to this. There is something to people using the arts to learn to speak English. That drama and theater technique, acting technique, are basically the same things that we work on when we're learning a new language. Pronunciation, eye contact, inflection, intonation, all of those things that we teach in basic acting, we teach when we're learning languages. And what was cool at our school was that drama became the cool thing. It became what everyone at our little school wanted to do. In fact, we printed black beanies that said Drama Geek, and we wore it with pride. And you'll see here, this was from a dance drama we did of Macbeth. And all of the boys that were in the show felt awesome, and all the boys that weren't in drama wanted to be awesome. And I love this picture because it showed that these kids who had dared and gotten involved in our school and gotten out performing, they really got American culture. They started having American girlfriends, and they started really having an American school experience. And I thought, there's something to this. How can I share this? And though I'm not a trained linguist, I started getting really excited about English as a second language and how I could teach English as a second language. I was introduced, this is another fun picture from the show, but I was introduced to Dr. Peter Chan, who would recruit hundreds of students every year to come from China and do summer camps, short-term, 3-week ESL camps. And I said, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's get 50 American kids and 50 Chinese kids and put them together for 3 weeks and put on a show at the end of it. And he actually thought it was a great idea. In fact, he thought I was crazy, but he was actually kind of excited about it. So, you know, these are the pictures I get. They all look very excited to come and do a lot of theater. So, you know, these students, they came ready to work. But little did they know the kind of work they were going to be doing. What we would do is we would put them in host families and welcome them into their families. Now, of course, they're coming to a small town where many of our families had 6, 7. We had one family that had 11 kids. Of course, some of them were grown and gone by now, but they were still willing to host these students. And what was so wonderful is the host families just welcomed them in. We would play. Every day we would do rehearsal in the morning and then do an afternoon activity. We would teach them music, and while we were working on the music, we were teaching them new vocabulary. We were using the words, the lyrics, to stretch their vowels and help them with their pronunciation. We would take them to shows at the Tony Award-winning Utah Shakespeare Festival. We would have them help us build and paint and work on the set. We would teach them choreography to connect that muscle memory to the songs that they were learning and to help them connect those lyrics. We ended up putting on a 40-minute production after only 3 weeks with 100 teenagers. I love this picture because it shows some of my most favorite students and some of my most memorable students. When they would come, they would all choose an American name because they knew that we would, of course, not be able to pronounce their Chinese names properly. We've got Burr and Cherry and Tracy, and here, the sassy one, she chose the name 11. And up here in the corner, This guy was named Disaster Sky. And I was like, oh, great, here we go. We've got Disaster Sky. He's going to be trouble. When actually, he was so delightful. And the reason he chose that name for very poetic reasons. And he explained to us that no matter how hard the world gets, no matter how disastrous our life feels, there's always the beautiful sky. And it's awesome now in his Gmail profile, he's changed his name to Sky Gibson, where he's taken on his host family's last name. Dale Carnegie said, people rarely succeed unless they have fun in what they are doing. And I love this picture because could that boy look any more delighted to be holding that girl? I actually, when I was choreographing this, I said, all right, Jack, I want you to scoop Mary Jane up. I want you to give it a twirl and bring her down stage. And he looked at me, and he turned the color of her dress, and he giggled and laughed and looked around, and he was like, you really want me to do this? And she was like, oh my gosh, you really want him to do that? But they did it, and he did it, and you know, they're still friends today. Many of us are still in email contact with each other. I love this picture for that reason. Now, I teach at a university where the arts are very embraced. And I love teaching here because part of our mission statement is a personalized, rigorous, and experiential education. And this is us, and I wondered, could this theater technique, could these artsy-fartsy sorts of things that I do work in an academic English situation? And I would say, yes, they can. And not only do they work, they make our classes super fun. This is us doing ensemble theater technique and actually spelling words in collaboration with each other. And there's the letter K with our girl from Mongolia and our girl from Taiwan. And of course, the guy from Saudi Arabia is laughing his head off in the background. I love teaching here, and the reason I love it is because of the collaboration that we have. One of the most, you'll find many of our teachers taking our students off to local businesses, off to local art galleries, really trying to incorporate them. Sometimes we're telling Chinese folk tales in the classroom. Here we have our modern dance majors working with our modern dance instructor and teaching our students how to take the poetry they've written and turn it into movement. We have, here I am teaching the Irish jig during our St. Paddy's Day celebration. And, you know, it was crazy when we took them to the Cedar livestock auction. They had a blast with that. And you can imagine what they thought and what they smelled. One of the best experiences I've had teaching in my career was when I went in the first day of a level 4 class, and half of the class was from Saudi Arabia, and the other half of the class was from China. And they sat just like a risk board, and they never sat together, they never interacted. But every day at the first of our listening speaking classes, I would get them up and I would do an improv game. And whether they liked it or not, but really what got to be really fun is they started really liking it. So every day we would kind of look forward to this game. Then we started using ensemble theater technique to do poetry. And within minutes, they would have poems memorized where if I had assigned it to take home and learn it by themselves, it would have taken them days to memorize. But within minutes together, collaborating together, they memorized this poetry. For our final, we did a 10-minute production of Peter Pan. Now, this was a low-scale, low-budget production where the Coke machine and the janitor's closet were our backstage areas. But the level of commitment and the level of energy that was shown by all of these students from all over the world was exciting. And one of the most precious things was when one of my students from China took one of his classmates from Saudi Arabia and came to me and said, "Teacher, please. Teacher, he's got to pass. Please, teacher, I know he struggles, but he's got to pass. He's a good man." And I thought, we've succeeded. We've succeeded. We've connected. And really, isn't that what this is all about? And the reason I love teaching with the arts is because of the multiple intelligences that are covered when you're using the arts to teach any subject. The multisensory learning, the experiential learning, the collaboration and cooperative learning. At the end of our shows with our Chinese summer camps, we always sing "What a Wonderful World." And seeing these beautiful faces sing these beautiful lyrics, "What a Wonderful World," I realized that the arts can do more than just make the class more interesting, than make it more fun. But the arts can truly be a vehicle for diplomacy. Aristotle said, "Tell me, and I'll forget. Show me, and I will learn. Involve me, and I will understand." Thank you.